Apple has maintained its latest iPhone prices in the U.S. compared to last year, increasing them, however, in some Asian nations where the dollar has increased in value in recent months. Customers in Japan, for instance, where the yen has fallen about 24%, will pay 20% more for the entry-level iPhone 14 than they did for the iPhone 13, which cost about 99,800 yen, about $692, when it was released a year ago. Joining us to discuss further, Sanyade Okoli, CEO of Alpha African Advisory. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I guess before we begin, though, on these tech stories, the Queen has passed. Did you want to, I guess, share your thoughts on her legacy?
Yes, I guess she's left a vacuum in the hearts of people, not just in the UK, but across the whole world. Yeah. And for anyone 70 and below, she was queen our entire lifetime. So she lived and reigned for so long, most of us can be forgiven for forgetting that she was human and therefore mortal. It's not a surprise, of course, given her age, but then it's still, for a lot of people, is quite significant. Yeah. It's a historic moment. And here's condoling with the entire royal family and the wider British public.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Okay, so let's get to, I guess, starting with Apple. You know, what does it say that, I guess, if you are an American that lives there, your prices get frozen compared to last year? And I think Apple said it was because of inflationary pressures in the United States. But then, for everyone else, price is up. Is that, king dollar, or what? How do you describe that? How would you, assess this situation with the iPhone 14?
Well, let's put it so, I'm sure these were not decisions that they made carelessly, because as we've said in the past, a lot of countries, a lot of companies are dealing with very complex issues. So you've got inflation on one hand, but on the other hand, you have a strengthened dollar. Yeah. And coupled with that, you have some other currencies that have weakened, not just against the dollar, but against, in absolute terms, weakened. Yeah. So you can see how, with everything going on in the world, like in Europe, you've got the energy crisis, you've got food security crisis in some places. They've tried to not pass through inflation. Yeah. But then with the currency, it's difficult for them not to have done what they did do. Yeah. And if you think about it, it's some ways speaking to how they feel about the inelasticity of their product. Right, exactly, which is 50% of their sales. Let's look at the challenges facing, I guess, the non-US iPhone fans, right? Currency depreciation, rising inflation, and reduced disposable income. However, US customers, they're facing 2 out of 3 of these, right? But I guess, is this with currency depreciation, they're not facing that, as you've already mentioned, but they're facing 2 out of 3. But still, it seems like the currency strength of the dollar looms over the other factors. Is that a product of, I guess, American innovation, for US-made electronics, with what we're seeing? Well, to your point, it really is about the dollar. And the reality is, especially in difficult times of turmoil, investors flock towards the dollar because they see it as a safe currency. So at a time like this, people want more dollars, and that essentially strengthens the dollar. Yeah. And if you're in the US, you're earning dollars, you're holding dollars, so your currency is definitely stronger. It is what it is.
If we look at these smartphone giants around the world, right? We're talking about Apple now and their iPhone. They're one of the biggest rivals, Samsung, right? That's in Korea. We've got Xiaomi in China, Huawei. All these companies release smartphones. They've got large market share. They create, make billions of dollars that, turns FX earnings for their nation's taxes and so on. When, if ever, can, you know what I'm going to ask, can Africa join this conversation?
Well, it depends on what conversation. Well, and I think it's also a country by country. Yeah.
In reality, should all African countries seek to be replicating and producing
Smartphones, okay.
We're probably not best placed.
Yeah.
The question is for each country, where do our strengths lie?
Yeah.
What do we have that other people want? And it's moving away from exporting sort of raw and processed commodities and products to adding value. So bottom line is, we need to manufacture more, and as you know, for us to be able to manufacture more and at a competitive rate, we need to ensure that the infrastructure deficit is addressed.
Yeah. So I mean, you can think. I mean, can one out of the 50 plus African nations that can possibly make a phone one of these days?
No, but they can. Even in Nigeria, you have had companies that, even if it's not assembled here, have developed their own phones. It's all about, can you do it competitively?
Gotcha. Yeah.
That's the key
question.
Yes.
Let's move to Bolt. What do you make of the safety features that they've put forward?
I think it's interesting because the natural human mind always looks at things from their perspective. So I use Bolt as a passenger, and you never stop to think of the drivers and how safe or not safe they feel.
Exactly.
So reading the story, you think, oh yes, okay, I worry about my safety or my children's safety, etc., and I might share my trip details. But equally, some drivers might be at work doing their thing day to day, and a passenger might come into the car and they think, whoa, I feel a little uncomfortable. So it's a great innovation.
Works for them, yeah. Uber, that's the Bolt's competitor. This partnering with NURO for driverless grocery and food deliveries. Should it be celebrated or feared with where innovation is going right now?
Well, innovation is going, whether or not you celebrate it or fear it. It is what it is. It is happening, and I don't think it's to be feared, to be honest. But as I said, it's an unstoppable train.
Yeah, but what about the jobs? So
yes. I paused because you look like, Well, I was thinking about it. I thought, you know what? I'm going to tell my children, guys, scale up, scale up, scale up. It's bottom line, because when I was reading about NURO, to be honest, it looked so interesting that I wanted to jump back 30 years, to me being an engineer and go into engineering. So you have more opportunities for highly skilled jobs and less for lower skilled jobs. It's the bottom line.
Have you seen the movie I, Robot, Will Smith? Have you seen that? Are we getting closer to science fiction becoming what that movie was talking about how many years ago?
Well, if you think about it, before anything is formed in reality, it's first developed in the mind. So any sci-fi movie or anything means somebody has thought it up in their minds. Therefore, it can become a reality. It's just a matter of time.
Okay, I'll put you on the spot. Would you use a driverless car?
Absolutely. And if you would? Well, if you think about it, most of us in some way or the other already use driverless cars, because cruise control it's less automated, but it is automated, and fine, maybe depending on where you are in the world, you might not be able to use the full facilities. But if you're driving in Europe or the US, etc., you easily use cruise control, and that's semi-automated.
Okay, fine. So brilliant example that you brought up. So because with cruise control, you still have, I don't know, would you take your hands off the wheel if you're using cruise control? You still have your hand on the wheel, and you can still, if you want to.
Yeah, but you can trust it to accelerate, to decelerate, etc.
Okay, so what I'm asking about is you not even being in the driver's seat at all. So you're in the back or maybe in the passenger side, and you're just completely letting the vehicle move you through wherever you are.
Yeah, because if you think about it, if you've sat at the back of a car with somebody else driving, you're already taking a risk, because we're humans, right? And we're prone to error.
I'm thinking of Lagos drivers,
right? Well, exactly. I don't want to point fingers. We are prone to error. And when you read about the technology of some of these automated cars, they're using radar, they're using all sorts of, sonic, what's near me, they can detect, a bush, an animal, etc., etc. It's not cast iron, but neither am I and neither you as drivers.
does where, I don't know, we're having this conversation now. I don't know what the world would look like 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. But I mean, will humans still have control over artificial intelligence? I guess that's where I'm going. I don't want to get into an iRobot situation here where the robots take over the earth. But it just seems like we're getting closer and closer to where we're needed less for control of these things. And you see what Uber and NURO are doing. Robots delivering you food. There are hotels in Japan where robots come to clean your room and so on and so forth. So, I mean, just can you forecast where we're going?
I just had a very cheeky response.
Yeah.
Turn off the internet, turn off the electricity, and you're in control.
And you'll shut them down. Sanyade Okoli, CEO, Alpha African Advisory. Thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure having you. You're watching the Global Business Report here on Arise News. We'll have more for you after the break. Do stay tuned.